Welcome to my channel. Today I'm inviting you to help me with a project I've got going on. The next 2 weekends, my husband and I are going to be going away without the kids, which is awesome. Well, full disclosure, on the second weekend, we're actually going to visit our adult son and his wife in the next province to us. So I guess technically that weekend we will have one of our kids with us. But essentially, we are leaving our other teen and young adult kids here to fend for themselves. And while my freezer is stocked full of dinners, I don't have any breakfast or snack items. So what I'm working on is to have breakfasts and snacks for them. And because both of these trips are long drives, I want to be able to have some snacks that I can take with us for the road. This is going to be a pretty ambitious project because I have a big list planned. So we're going to get started, and I probably can't finish this all in one day, but I will just continue to show you this journey. I got this pack of breakfast sausages. It's a family size pack, of course, because we have a mega size family. And I'm just gonna cook these up. When I got them because they were incredibly on sale. I didn't really have a plan for them, but I've since sort of formulated a plan, so we'll just see how far we can stretch them. And if we have any left over, one of my daughters loves to just have them in the morning before she goes to school. So I can also just pop a few extra in the fridge if there's any left over, and she will be really happy with that. Now, I've put them on a stoneware baking sheet. One of the reasons that I did this is because this is a newer stoneware, and so it doesn't have that nice like patina on it that stoneware gets once it gets the oil from your food in there. So these will be nice and oily, and they'll help season my pan. I'm gonna throw these in the oven. A friend of mine gave me this enormous bag of purple onions. And I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do with all of them, but I can guarantee that any onions that we use today will be purple. So I'm gonna start by chopping one of these. I'm also gonna chop a red pepper that I happen to have. And then last night when I was making nachos, I went ahead and cut up some extra jalapenos. So I've got those already diced. And one of the things that I wanted to do with those breakfast sausages is make some breakfast quesadillas. So just little mini ones. So we're also gonna have to scramble some eggs for that, but that'll be really, really easy to do. And then I was thinking of possibly making scrambled egg bites with just some of those vegetables that we've got that we're cutting anyway. And then also, again, kind of ambitious with this plan of mine. We'll see how much we can get done. I'm also thinking like buttermilk waffles, some lemon bliss balls, which I've never made before, but you know, why not try today? And I also want to do a mixed berry French toast casserole that'll be so great for brunch. And then I want to do some cookies and maybe some homemade granola bars. We'll see how much time we have. And also I'm thinking with these cut up vegetables, and I got a lot of eggs, maybe we can also do a frittata. I love having those in the freezer because they make such an amazing brunch. Right this very second, we are having our summer meal survival kit sale. Everything you need to make this summer in the kitchen a breeze is included in this kit. You're going to want to check this out now, especially if you've got hungry kids to feed this summer. I like to have a bowl handy that I can put my compost in. That way I'm not running back and forth. I really love these prep bowls. They are from Pampered Chef. I think we have them listed in our Amazon store. The link is down below. What I like about them is that they come with lids, so you can easily store things in your fridge, and they have measurements. So I've got the 1 cup, the 2 cup, and the 3 cup. Now, the 3 cup I don't use as often. The 1 cup I use so often that I actually have 3 sets, and I think there's 4 in a set. But sometimes my fridge has a whole bunch of these stacked because I can prep the day before and then have things all ready to go. For today, I've got the 2 cup for my red pepper because I knew it would use that much. And I've got my nacho jalapenos from last night in just a little 1 cupper. And I'm gonna need the big 3 cupper for the spinach, because you know how spinach is, like it wilts down, so you have to use a lot to get a small amount. Now, when I'm doing onions, I usually use my onion chopper. I love it so much, but when I'm doing like 1 onion, I can't really justify taking out the onion chopper for that. So I will suffer through and just chop it myself. There were days where we thought. Now let's start on our spinach. So this will be a great use for the spinach, and I'm only using it because I had it on hand. It doesn't necessarily need to go in these recipes, but use what you have, because you might know if you've watched the channel for a while that I don't like to waste. Now this upcoming weekend, my husband and I are going hiking in Canmore, Alberta, which is absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. And the other thing that I am really looking forward to is they have great restaurants. I'm a foodie. I love good food and I love trying new things. So we're actually going to a few tasting menu type restaurants, and I'm gonna be experimenting, going out of my comfort zone when it comes to trying the foods. And I hope that I can bring back some things to experiment with and maybe invent my own versions of, so that I can share that with you. That's one of the ways that I get some of my best recipes, is by trying things at restaurants and then recreating the things at home. I am excited / a little bit apprehensive because one of the places that we're going to has a strange menu. You don't get to see the menu ahead of time, and you just kind of go, and you can of course tell them if you have allergies or whatever, but other than that, you just kind of get what you get. And I've heard that one of the things that they use is sap. So I can't say that, other than maple syrup, that I've had a lot of sap in my day. So this is going to be a real departure from my norm. And like I said, I am excited / a little apprehensive about it, but I think it's going to be really fun. And because I might have to finish this video when I get back, because like I said, I'm so ambitious on all of these ideas for what I'm gonna make. So for that, I might be able to, in the interim, tell you all about it. And I'll try to remember to take pictures, and that way you can see my edible sap dishes. Anyway. Wouldn't make it out. I'm really pleased with our vegetables because I love color, because it makes me think that I'm feeding my family healthier if there's more color. And so we've got red and purple and green. So combine that with like the yellow of the eggs, and these are going to be beautiful dishes. Speaking of eggs, I'm going to get started on those. I'm just going to start with scrambling some, and then we'll see if we get to those scrambled egg bites after that or not. Kind of depends on how things play out. For the scrambled eggs, all I do is I use a little bit of milk or whipped cream. I had whipped cream today, or heavy cream, you could also call it. So we're using that. But I add salt and pepper, as probably most people do. One of the things I also add is paprika. Now, when I was first learning to cook, oh, hold on. I need to get my compost bowl, because eggshells can totally go in your compost bowl. Okay, one of the things when I was learning how to cook, because I had no idea, is I used to read on the spice labels that I was buying at the time. It would tell you, like, this goes really well with chicken or with egg, or this is really good with pork or whatever. And that's one of the ways that I learned how to cook, is actually just by reading those spice labels and being like, oh, it says that paprika goes really well on pizza. So I always sprinkle it on top of the mozzarella cheese on pizza, which I know is a little bit odd. And it also said that it goes well with eggs. And that makes sense to me, because when you do deviled eggs, you always sprinkle some paprika on top. And so, yeah, that just is kind of a logical one for me. So I always add paprika to my eggs. And now it's just habit. Okay, I have ooey gooey egg hands, so I'll be right back. All right, now we're gonna add that whipping cream, the salt, pepper, and a little sprinkling of paprika, and then just use our whisk to get that mixed together. And then I'm just gonna cook it up in some butter and scramble it. Yeah, this should go really well for those breakfast quesadillas.
We stuck it out, today's our day. Today's our...
Now, what I've been taught about eggs is sort of low and slow, gives you less rubbery eggs. So that's always what I've gone with. While we're scrambling the eggs, I just want to get started on the next thing, which is to figure out how many waffles I can make, because I have a bit of a flour issue. This is all the flour that I have left right now, and so I have enough buttermilk to quadruple my recipe, and in this family I usually quadruple it, but I might not have enough flour to quadruple it. So I'm hoping I at least have enough flour to triple it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is figure that out. It calls for 4 cups of flour per recipe. So, you know, if we even have 8 cups here, then at least we can double it, and then we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so we have enough for 1 recipe, hopefully 2. It is not looking good for tripling here, folks. I don't know if I can get another 4 out of here. I don't know if I can get 12, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Now, I found a spoon. Like, at some point, somebody put a spoon in the flour and it had gotten all down there. So you just never know what you're gonna find. Anyway, let's see if we can triple this recipe. I know I could run to the store and grab flour, but we live in the country, so it's not as easy as just like, you know, going down the street. And I always say done is better than perfect. I've heard it also said as done is the new perfect. Either way, I'm kind of the queen of that, and so we're just gonna do what we can do today. So this is gonna be 9. We did it. We've got 12 cups of flour in there, so I don't have enough left, definitely, to quadruple the recipe, but we can triple it, and I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna set this aside because we are almost ready to start assembling those breakfast quesadillas. These are our breakfast sausages, and just like I wanted, my pan got a lot of loving, so this is really gonna help it to season up. Okay, we're just gonna cut these, but I am gonna wait for them to cool down a little bit. Probably hear them sizzling away. Now, one trick that my neighbor and friend Christy taught me, if you've watched the channel, then you know who Christy is to use your oven mitts to put one side of your pan higher. That way your grease will all drain down to the other side. It's super handy. We're gonna scoop the sausages out of that corner because we don't want them swimming in that grease. Okay, we're gonna set the scrambled eggs down on my cute little Anne of Green Gables pot holder here. And we are almost ready to assemble these. Okay, these are way too hot to cut. I don't know what I was thinking, but while I wait for these to cool just a few minutes longer so I can at least touch them, I'm gonna grab myself another tea. Caffeine is always good in the mornings, for me anyway, and then we'll come back.
Tonight's our night. Tonight's our night. I'll fight for you until this life.
I've got a dozen or so left. I'm just gonna put them into a container and get that in the fridge. I like to do my dishes as I go because on a day like today, it can create so much that it's like hard to get on top of again. So I find if I empty the dishwasher at the beginning of the day and make sure that I'm starting with an empty dishwasher and then just kind of load it as I go and hand wash any dishes that need hand washing, then it's not as overwhelming at the end of the day. And at the end of the day is when you're exhausted, right? So we've got these little mini flour tortillas. We're placing them down on a baking sheet. Now that part's important because That is what is going to make it so that you can separate these, because we're going to freeze these flat on the baking sheet. Then we're going to take them out and transfer them into freezer bags or containers, because if you just put these like this into your freezer bag, and believe me, I have learned this the hard way, then they end up sticking together. You can't take out one at a time. And even if you take out more than one, like they stick together, that flour tortilla is going to peel. It's all kinds of not good. So onto our flour tortilla, we're going to add a little bit of the scrambled egg. We're going to be pretty generous with the breakfast sausage because we have so much. And then we're going to add whatever vegetables we want. So I'm going to do red pepper and onion in most of these. And in a few, I'm going to do just the breakfast sausage because I do have one daughter who will not eat vegetables. So I can mark those or put them in a separate bag, and then she'll know that she can have those. The other thing that we're going to do is add cheese. Now you don't have to add cheese, but the nice thing about cheese is that then when you reheat these or heat these, then that cheese melts and it kind of binds everything together nicely.
It's over. There's no giving up here, babe. We'll make it out and fall in love tonight. Ain't nothing needed but us feeling right. Just take a chance.
Okay, so we're just gonna get these folded over and get these into the freezer so we can transfer them to our freezer bags once they're frozen. It only made 7. That's because I hadn't made very many eggs, but I have a plan that I needed eggs for, and in addition to the waffles. So I was just trying to make the most of my eggs. So I can, now that I've folded them over, I can actually fit this extra one over here. And we're gonna need this baking sheet for our waffles. So let's get these in the freezer and get the waffles really started. Okay, we're just gonna set these things aside because we're gonna be using them in the scrambled egg bites. And we're gonna be using these in my pancake mini muffins. I've never done my pancake mini muffins with sausage in them, but I saw a recipe for that online and I was like, wait, I already have a recipe. And one of my suggestions to people is that they add these in it. I've done mine with blueberries. I've done them with like a cinnamon sugar mixture. I've done like a lemon one. What else have I done? Oh, chocolate chip, of course. So I've done lots of different varieties, but I've never done them with the sausage inside. So I know that's gonna be a huge hit, like no doubt about it. It kind of reminds me of my corn dog mini muffins that my kids love. It's been a really long time since I made those. Maybe I should make those sometime soon. What I like to do is always gather the ingredients for my recipes before I get started. So you can find the buttermilk waffle recipe on freezermeals101.com or on freezermeals101club.com. I'll have the link for it in the description below, but I've just got the recipe with me so that I can gather all the ingredients. I find that saves time in the end and also frustration in case you don't have one of the ingredients and have to run to the store or something. It's better to find out now than when you're like 3/4 of the way through making the recipe. I also like to gather anything that I'll need, like measuring cups, measuring spoons, and our beater. Those of you who've been with me for a long time know that before we renovated our kitchen, I had a plug-in right here in the middle of the island. Ugliest plug-in ever. So right now it's still a novelty. It's been, I'm not sure how many months it's been since we renovated the kitchen, but quite a few months now, before Christmas. And it's still a novelty for me to be able to like plug things in on the side of the counter rather than having the big like ugly metal thing sticking up in the middle. It also used to always get in my way because I couldn't move my bowls around very much. So I am loving having this flat surface. The recipe calls for melted butter, so I'm just gonna get this in the microwave. This looks like an awful lot of butter, but keep in mind that we are tripling this recipe. Funny story, you know how I found the spoon in my flour? Well, I just found my 1/4 cup measuring spoon or measuring cup in my sugar, and I've been looking for this for like at least 2 weeks. So actually I was just telling Christy, like, I don't know where it went to, it disappeared. And anyway, here it is. Okay, we're gonna get this started. We're gonna add our sugar into our flour, and then we're gonna add some salt and a whole lot of baking powder.
We didn't see you and me, we were meant to be.
We're just gonna mix the dry ingredients together and then start adding everything else.
We were meant to be.
It does call for the eggs to be lightly beaten, so I'm just gonna go ahead and break them into another bowl and pour it in. I think that'll just make it easier.
We were meant to be.
I think I'm just gonna mix it with a large spoon. I had planned on doing it with my electric mixer, but I think in the past I've just done it with spoon, so that's what we're gonna go with. Okay, it calls for a lot of buttermilk, so we're just gonna measure that out, and then our regular milk after that.
There were times.
It says very large. I'm kind of thinking that maybe I should have used my larger bowl, but we'll try to just keep everything in there, and then we still have to add our melted butter.
When we found
I'm gonna plug in that waffle maker so that it's all ready for us when we're done mixing. This is so full that I actually have to stand on my tippy toes because I'm short to be able to stir it. You know, when you're mega cooking, sometimes you need the large bowls and you need to stand on your tiptoes.
it, fell back in love, the best still to come, our time is now.
I have this awesome waffle maker. It makes 4 waffles at a time, and each of them fit exactly in a toaster, so it is perfect for reheating. We're just gonna spray this with some cooking spray, and then I'm gonna swap my big spoon out for this ladle, and I know that 1 ladle is exactly perfect for each waffle. We'll just get 4 ladles put on there.
Our time is.
I like my waffles really crispy, so they're gonna take a while. While that is cooking, I'm gonna grab out my syrup container because we need to refill. When you have a large family, you go through some syrup. So I always buy the syrup from Costco, and then to make it easy pouring so that you don't end up with syrup all over the counter from little ones, I just refill the little tabletop versions of the syrup. Now I've got the dishwasher running because we're kind of at that point in the day already, even though it's still morning-ish. But we just went through so many dishes with those quesadillas, even though we didn't make that many. I really should have doubled what I made, but anyway, live and learn. We're just gonna transfer this. I suppose you could do it with a funnel. I do it the messy way. And there we go. I'm just gonna check the other syrup container and see what its fill level is at. This one needs a top up too, so might as well do that while we're here. Let's see if I can do this one without spilling as well. That would be 2 for 2. Okay, those are done. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because I'm getting hungry and I want to try one of these first waffles, you know, be the taste tester, because it's only fair, right? So for that, I'm going to need syrup. Plus, I was making the most use of my time by doing this while those are cooking. So the weirdest thing happened, and I'm not totally sure that I'm going to leave this part in the video, but I'm just going to put it here and then I can decide later if I'm going to edit it out or not. But I'm back, and you didn't even know I was gone. I was making that first set of waffles, and I went into the other room for just a second while they were cooking. And when I came back into the kitchen, I had this like, you know, if you look in the sun too long and you can't really see, you've got spots in front of your eyes. I had something kind of like that, but really, really bright. And then I started to get like immediately these wavy, really fast moving, like wavy lights in my eyes and like at my peripheral. It was really freaky and scared me, and it was so fast moving that I actually started to feel like I might faint, like a little bit dizzy. And so I, sunk down to the floor and my phone was on the counter, so I didn't even have that. But my husband had just stopped by the house. He was at a meeting. That's the waffles. Hold on.
You until this life is over. There's no giving up here.
Okay, let's try this again. So yeah, he had been at a meeting, but then he had come home in between. He had another meeting this afternoon, so it was just like really fortunate that he happened to be home. And one of our sons is in the process of moving right now, so my husband was like hooking the trailer up to our vehicle so that he could take some loads over to our son's house. And so yeah, they were doing that, and I had this happen, and he came into the house to grab something, and I sort of called out for him and was like, something is wrong. I don't know what's happening. And so he right away called my eye doctor, who was amazing. Like, the staff was amazing, and they said they would get me in right away. And so he actually took the waffles out that first set because it beeped while we were, while I was sitting on the floor. And then he drove me to the eye doctor, and I was really freaked out. I thought that, maybe my retina was detaching or something awful. I was so scared, and just like didn't feel right. But it was an ocular migraine, which I've never had before. And so I'm fine. My retinas are fine. The other thing that starts with a V, that is sort of something else that can happen, that's fine. And so basically probably just stress, which, makes a lot of sense right now, which is fine. And I already feel a lot better. I'm gonna feel even better after I eat something. So I've got this waffle that is beautiful, and I did not get to eat from that first batch, but from this second round, I'm gonna get some sugar into my body, and maybe that will help because I'm kind of feeling low energy now. But my vision is totally returned to normal. I can see. I'm so thankful. I've never been so thankful to be able to see in my life, like one of those things that you just take for granted. I feel like on the way home, I was like, oh, I can see this, and I can, anyway. So I'm very thankful about that. And we also stopped on the way home because I was feeling so much better already. And we picked up more eggs, and we picked up a giant thing of flour, but that's still in the vehicle that now my husband, is moving our son with, so I forgot to take the flour out of the vehicle. But I have more eggs, so we can do the scrambled egg bites as soon as I eat. So I'm gonna eat this waffle because I need to make sure, I take care of myself. I'm gonna drink some more water. I did drink a water bottle on the way there and the way back, so a full water bottle. So I think, that might be an issue too. But I'm gonna eat, and then once I've eaten, we'll make the scrambled egg bites as we do the waffles, because the waffles take so long for each set to be done. And then we'll continue to put those in the freezer. Once they're frozen, we'll transfer them and do all of that stuff. So wow, I was not expecting today to be as eventful as it has been. And obviously my big ambitious plan for today is not gonna happen, but at least if we can get the waffles done. I had my son cover them when we were on our way out the door, put a lid on them so that the cats didn't get into the batter. But yeah, seriously, was not expecting this eventful of a day today. And we're not gonna finish everything, but if we can get even just a few more things into the freezer, that'll make me feel better about these upcoming weekends. And yeah.
We'll make it out and fall in love tonight. Ain't nothing.
We're gonna get this first tray into the freezer. Now, as you might have seen, when we put the breakfast quesadillas in the freezer, I don't have a lot of room in there because we recently did a mega session. Oh, I will pop the link for that up there, where Christy and I, my neighbor and I, made like 128 meals, 126 meals, something like that. And so I have a lot of dinners in this main freezer. So I'm gonna put this in my second stand-up freezer because there's more room there. And then we'll get started on the next tray. We're gonna have a lot of trays because we are tripling this recipe. Okay, we're gonna make scrambled egg bites. Oh, I feel quite frazzled right now, I have to tell you. Like, looking at the time, it's 2 o'clock. Like, I started this in the morning, but then there was this unexpected thing that took a chunk of time. So it is now the afternoon, and here I am. I have to leave at like probably 3:30, 3:45. So I don't know how much we're gonna get done, but I do know that we can get the scrambled egg bites done while the waffles are cooking because I tripled the batch, so I have to stand here anyway. We might as well do this. Have to grab my compost bowl again. And this is something where my kids love to be able to have these as grab and go breakfasts. So I really feel good about having them in the freezer. I actually don't like to run out. I forgot to spray my pan. It should probably be okay for that one because this is a stoneware pan. But just in case, I'm gonna spray the rest. We'll see if that one fights me when I'm trying to get it out. Okay, these are so simple. And like I said, I feel really good about having them in the freezer because then the kids can grab them before school or before work, or even take them with them because it's like grab and go. So I've got my oven preheated. These are gonna be fast to put together. All we're doing is we're breaking an egg into each muffin cup. We're gonna give these a tiny little scramble right in the cup here with a fork, and then we're gonna add salt and pepper. Now, the key to this, making it successful, again, the recipe is gonna be in the link below, so this is something you can easily make too, is that once you put whatever you're gonna put in here, so you can put in some like cooked crumbled bacon if you want, or some breakfast sausage like we're gonna do today, or you can put in a bunch of vegetables, you can add cheese, all kinds of things. Once you do that, the key is you wanna press them down with a fork. Otherwise, they're gonna sit on the top, not incorporate into your scrambled egg bite. And the other nice thing about these is that these are a fraction of the ones that you can get at a drive-thru. Like I know Starbucks has egg bites and they're so much more expensive. Plus, anytime you're buying anything and didn't make it at home, you don't really know what's in it. So it's nice to know exactly what's in these. And this is all like just from scratch ingredients that you know how to pronounce and that you know where you got them from. We even have down the road from us, somebody sells farm fresh eggs, and I didn't get any today. I just have store-bought eggs, but you can even use something like that. Or if you have your own chickens, you can use those eggs. Okay, we're gonna give these a scramble. Pause to take out the waffles. Wait and see, you and me, we were meant to be. And we're just gonna fill these with whatever we want. So we've got that purple onion, the jalapeno, the red pepper, the spinach, and oh, we've got some cheese. Ah, forgot the spinach. When I was out, at the eye doctor, our son, who had been in the process of moving with his dad, put all the things away. So he put the lid on the waffle mixture, but he also put lids on all the little prep bowls, which I was telling you earlier, they're very handy for that. So he did that, and then he got those put in the fridge. So I just had them sitting out on the counter, but he wasn't sure how long we were going to be gone for. Fair enough. But as a result, I am not quite as prepared. My spinach is in the other fridge. Voila, spinach. Ooh, look, the lid just popped right off. Anyway, okay, it's been a day, y'all. The other thing I grabbed when I was in there is, this is leftovers from last night. It's all that's left. But this is our one pot Cajun chicken pasta. If you were looking for one of the best freezer meals you have, best meals, forget freezer meals, like it happens to be a freezer meal, but best meals you've ever had, this is it. So I saw that in there and I was like, you know, I think I should probably eat healthier today than just a waffle, given that my body might be telling me that I'm not taking good enough care of it lately. Once I get these in the oven, I'm gonna have some of those leftovers. I think that's gonna be a smart way to go today. Okay, I'm just gonna add some red pepper to these. I'm doing some that are just veggie because I've got some kids. I've got one of my kids is basically vegetarian and one doesn't eat any vegetables at all, and then the rest are kind of in the middle. But yeah, I have another one that kind of prefers veggies. So I'm gonna do some of these just veggie and some of them the sausage and cheese, because yeah, those will appeal to different sets of kids. So the veggie ones we're gonna add some spinach to. A rogue spinach got into one of the meat ones. That would not have gone over well. I'm not putting cheese in the veggie ones because, as it happens, some of our kids are lactose intolerant, and it just happens to be our kids who like veggies the most that can't have cheese. So I'm making these really specifically, and that's the nice thing about the scrambled egg bites, is that you can really customize them and you can play around with different things all in the same tray, so then you can kind of discover what your favorites are. Now I'm just going to take that fork that we kind of scrambled the eggs around with and press our toppings down. And now we are going to put these in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. That'll give us the chance to get more waffles done. Okay, I'm gonna put these in the freezer, but I'm gonna take out those breakfast quesadillas because I'm sure by now, with that big break we have in the middle, they are fully frozen and I can transfer them to a freezer bag because I'm starting to run out of trays. So I need that tray so I can add waffles to it. I also am running out of freezer space. These are kind of good problems to have, but we're only a little more than halfway done our waffle batter. Good thing I didn't quadruple it, as it turns out. Okay, just doing a little bit of clean down here. I am making more and more dishes, but the dishwasher is done. So after I eat, I'm gonna empty that so that we're ready to reload. My recycle is getting really full. We've got our compost that is almost ready to go out because it's so full. Those are the kinds of things that tell you that you're actually making progress, right? Okay, so these are nice and frozen. We're just gonna add them into a large resealable freezer bag. And aren't they cute? Like, look at that. It's adorable. Okay, it's kind of like a little breakfast taco. I know, it's a quesadilla, but just with the size of the tortilla, it kind of looks taco-esque. I think these are all gonna fit in one bag, which is kind of awesome because, as we've already established, I have a freezer space issue. That's another reason I was thinking that it might be good to do this video over like a couple of days, because as we eat down our freezer, it'll make more space. You want to get as much air as you can out of the bag. It's a little bit tricky with these, I have to tell you, because they're kind of odd shapes and they, there's no liquid in there, so it doesn't fill the bag exactly, but you just press down in the empty spaces and you do the best you can. And in my house, these aren't going to last long anyway, so it doesn't matter as much, but I did actually a pretty good job here. Air is what's going to cause your freezer burn, and that's why it's so important to get the air out. That just makes your freezer things last way, way longer. These don't have to last that long in my freezer, but if you need longer storage, then you want to be more careful to get air out. And like I said, I'm pretty proud of the job I did. Kind of looks like I did this with a vacuum sealer. Okay, I'm taking a lunch break. I'm gonna keep popping the waffles, out when they're ready. I kind of have this idea to still make those little sausage pancake mini muffin things, but I need the flour to do that, and it's in the vehicle that my husband has. So I will have to wait and see how that goes. We're gonna play it by ear, but either way, I need to eat, so I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. What a day. This is such craziness. It is 8 o'clock at night. It is 8:08, and I am starting this other recipe. After this, I am done. I wouldn't even be doing this except that I already cooked up the sausage bits. I don't want to waste them. We established I don't like wasting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make our pancake mini muffin recipe except with the sausage bits in it. And those are of course already cooked up. So I'm going to spray a muffin tin, a mini muffin tin. I think this spray is at the end of its life. Thankfully, I had just grabbed one last time I went shopping. Ooh, that is much better. Okay, lovely. Now we are going to mix our ingredients together, and I've got a little trick for you because this recipe calls for buttermilk, but I used the rest of the buttermilk in those delicious buttermilk waffles this morning. So we're gonna kind of cheat our way to buttermilk. So first we're gonna add our flour. Now that I have more flour and we can make this work, it's just 2.5 cups of flour. You don't have to be writing this down as I'm going because I'm gonna put the link to this recipe in the description below. Now we are going to add our sugar. I already measured it out, so here it is. And then baking powder, it's just 1 teaspoon as opposed to all the baking powder that we used in our waffle recipe. Some baking soda, a little tiny bit of salt. We're gonna mix that together because those are our dry ingredients. It does call for melted butter, so I'm just gonna put this in the microwave. As soon as I got home, I took the waffles out of the freezer, put them into freezer bags, and of course I forgot to film that part for you. So they're in bags. I got the air out. It wasn't that exciting. Hopefully you can use your imagination. Next, we are going to do our buttermilk. So to make buttermilk when you don't have buttermilk, you just take your regular milk and add a couple of tablespoons of vinegar or lemon juice and let it sit for a little bit. In this house, we have like mega-sized everything. I grew up in a family where it was just me and my brother. Now, being a mom of such a large family, sometimes I just shake my head at some of this. Okay, so we're gonna add our vinegar. And then you want to give it a stir and just let it sit for a little bit. And it kind of just thickens that milk right up. 2 eggs. So we'll get those in there while we're waiting for our buttermilk to happen. I have egg fingers for the 3rd time today, so I'm gonna go wash those off. Give this a stir. We're gonna throw in that butter as well. And stir it just till combined. It's just like when you're making regular pancakes, you don't really want to overmix it. Okay, so you have a few options at this point. You can either stir your mix-ins right in here, or you can add them when your batter is already in your mini muffin tin tray. I prefer to do it when it's in the muffin tin tray because I am a mom. And so over the years, I've experienced that whole, it's not fair. Hers has more chocolate chips than mine. And when you have had to listen to that too much, you tend to get to where you're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put 3 chocolate chips in each. And then I won't get any complaints anymore. So that's kind of what we're doing. You get things more even. Now, I am using a cookie dough scoop so that they all kind of get the same amount. Now this one isn't for that whole it's not fair reason, it's just because then they'll cook more evenly. Now we're just gonna plop in that's like the technical term, some of those sausage bits, and you want to press them down a little bit. I think probably two, like 1 or 2 sausage bits per mini pancake is going to be plenty. I would prefer to do 3 because it would look better creatively, but you can only shove so many pieces of sausage in a tiny little circle. As you may have guessed, this recipe makes 2 trays of the little mini muffins because we're doing batch cooking today. And because, you know, we're feeding the masses. We're gonna get these in the oven. I unfortunately do not own a second mini muffin tin tray, so I have to wait and do this one in batches. But we'll get there. It's gonna be not a super long night, but a little bit of a night. I've already done cleanup from before, so yeah, we're not gonna be cooking into the wee hours or anything like that. And like I said, I'm gonna continue this video because we have a lot more batch cooking to do, and I have so many fun ideas. And yeah, maybe I'll be a little more ambitious next time or a little less ambitious. We'll see. Hopefully next time I don't end up with an ocular migraine and having to run out into this emergency. I'm already back. I changed my mind. I was starting to put things away and I looked at the time and it only has to be in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes. So I was like, okay, but then I have to wait for them to cool before I can pull them out. Then I do the next batch, put them in the oven. Like, that's a lot of time just sitting around. And you know, we're in the kitchen anyway. And then I started thinking about these red peppers that I cut earlier. And like, I'm gonna be gone this weekend. So I'm not gonna, yes, my kids are gonna have breakfast foods for the weekend, but I'm gonna waste these beautiful red peppers. And that would be a tragedy. Okay, it wouldn't be a tragedy, but it would be sad, right? For these red peppers and for my grocery budget. So I also have this Swiss cheese that I wanna use up, and we've got the other vegetables that we cut today. And then I've got this sour cream that's gonna be expiring Wednesday. So I'm gonna make a frittata. It's gonna be delicious. It's gonna go in my freezer. It's gonna be for brunch. And then while I'm in the kitchen anyway, I get a whole other brunch made, and it'll just be so nice to have. And I might even take it on that weekend where we go visit our son and his wife, because it'd be really nice to have a brunch at their house and not have to have her cook or anything like that, right? It's always nice as a guest to bring things with you. So that's an option. Either I'll leave it here or I'll take it with us next weekend. Either way, I'm gonna use the time that we have to make a frittata. It's going to be amazing. Now, when you make frittatas, you can obviously put it into a casserole dish or even like a foil container that can go in your freezer. And if you do that, you do wanna, you know, double wrap it. And you do it in saran wrap first and then in foil. Make a note on there to take the saran wrap off or the plastic wrap off so that you don't accidentally bake that, because you know, it's happened. But you can also save space, which, you know, you've seen my freezer today, you know space is definitely a premium thing right now. So you just put it in this bag, and then when you thaw it, you dump it into a greased casserole dish. That's it. I know it's not gonna look the most beautiful, but I've done this so many times. The only times that I put frittata into the actual casserole dish ahead is usually like for Christmas morning, things like that, just because it's one less step and it's nice and easy. But normally I just put my frittata right in here. That's what we're gonna do today. You may have noticed I like to clear down. I just like to have a cleaner area to work with, and then there's less cleanup at the end. Now for my frittata recipe, sometimes I do zucchini in it, sometimes I add artichoke. I actually never add meat, but you totally could. Often add what vegetables I have on hand. Pretty much always red pepper though. I have never added spinach, but it's getting that little bit of spinach that we have left today because we have it left. And it's getting onion. A lot of times I actually do shallots instead of onion, just a little bit of a milder flavor. But today, of course, we're doing onion. I mean, you guys saw that giant bag of purple onion. Of course we're doing onion. We have gone through a fair number of eggs today. This is 3 dozen, and then we've opened another pack as well. And that is our heavy cream, which I also just happen to have. So might as well use that before it goes bad as well. Just adding salt and pepper before I whisk the eggs. Next, we're gonna add in heavy cream. Now, there is a recipe for this frittata in the description below or on the websites. However, I have to tell you, I've been making this for years and years, and I eyeball it. And sometimes I use a dozen eggs, and sometimes I use 10, and sometimes I use 14. It kind of depends on, like, if I know we're gonna be feeding a larger crowd or if there's gonna be less of us, kind of adapt it that way. Sometimes, you know, glug, glug, glug for the heavy cream. Sometimes I use less cheese or more cheese depending on what I have. It's always Swiss cheese though. I haven't really experimented with using other cheeses in this. Almost always I use fresh rosemary, but I don't have any today, so we're just using dried. Just gonna quickly grate some cheese here. Okay, that is the timer for the first set of pancake mini muffins. So I'm gonna pull those out and then just let them start to cool so that we can get started on the second set when the frittata is done. Okay, I gotta get closer though, right? Like, this is why these are popular with kids or adults. Like, they're really cute. So anyway, they also are really good dipped in syrup. If, you know, especially like this one, you've got a savory one. So dip this in syrup, it'll be really good. Sometimes if it's already got chocolate chips or whatever in it, then it's a little bit too sweet to dip it in syrup. But anyway, these are super cute, right? Oh, I forgot what I was doing there for a minute. Grating cheese, that's what we're doing. Also, maybe making a mental note to buy ourselves a second mini muffin tin so that I can cook 2 at one time. Because almost always, like, my recipe for the corn dog mini muffins that my kids can't get enough of, actually, no kids can get enough of, that one makes multiple trays. I think it may make more than 2 trays, actually. And yeah, I'm forever thinking, oh, I really should buy a second tray. Anyway, okay, this is an awful lot of Swiss cheese, so I better stop there. I also eyeball the sour cream. Just kind of a texture thing. Like, I've made it often enough that I know what the texture is supposed to be like. So when I get it there, I stop. That's looking really good. I am gonna add a little bit more of the heavy cream because I added so much cheese that it might be a little bit on the, thick is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, side if I don't. So yeah, that's the sweet spot. Okay, now we're gonna add in, I'm gonna add the rosemary. Like I said, I prefer to use fresh, but we'll just use what we have. I'm a big fan of using what you have. And then we're gonna use the red pepper, use a whole bunch of it. The rest of the spinach and a bunch of the purple onion. Just gonna swap out my whisk for the spoon. Oh, it's starting to get colorful. And this was done so quickly. And it's a whole brunch. Like, now we have a whole brunch. Yeah, I might, you know, have some bacon on the side or maybe some hash brown casserole, which is always popular around here. But, you know, your main dish is done. And I've got a weekend breakfast just all ready to go here. Okay, so we're just gonna pour this in the bag. And just like that, we have frittata. When this bakes up, it's so beautiful. Like, can brunch be beautiful? I think so. That's it. Ta-da! These are ready to be popped out and put on a cooling rack. So I just brought them a little closer. You can get a better view of that. They pop out really easily. I don't even have to grab a knife or anything so far. And actually, one of my kids has already helped themselves. So you might notice I am 17 instead of 18. I just finished saying I didn't need a knife, and now I need a knife. That's the way of things. Okay, so it's like 8:45 at night. I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to be done with all this breakfast food. It's obviously, as you see, quite popular. People are going by because the house is getting full of people and they're like grabbing them which is fine. I made them to be eaten, so it's all good. But because I'm tired, I'm not gonna wash this, in between. We're just gonna spray it again. They popped out pretty easily, but I wanna make sure I get a good spray on there, and then we're gonna make the rest, and that's it. I'm gonna call it a day, and then I'll continue. This video will continue because we have all the rest of those things to get made. So thank you for being with me today on this really weird, unusual day. It was unique, and I'm glad I had company for this craziness. So we will continue this. We'll see how many meals we get made. I'm back. You probably didn't even notice I was gone, but I'm back from that weekend in the mountains, and I have two kind of funny stories for you coming up about that restaurant that we went to. You know, the one where they made things out of different kinds of sap and parts of trees and all of that. So I'm gonna tell you about that. First, I'm gonna get started on this recipe. I'm gonna make our mixed berry French toast casserole. It is absolutely delicious. Hold on, I forgot the recipe. Okay, the link for this, it's in the club, is in the description down below. It is so good. It's like, it's a French toast casserole, right? It's a treat. It's great for a brunch. But what I like about it is the berries. Then you don't have to have fruit on the side. You've got an all-in-one brunch dish. All we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this beautiful, fresh French bread that I picked up from a local bakery. We're gonna cube it and put it into a casserole dish. Now, I've often made this one right into a foil tray and then gotten that in my freezer. I know that I'm gonna be making it within the next few weekends, so I don't mind putting this in my freezer and using it right in here. I just checked on the barbecue chicken drumsticks that are going in the slow cooker behind me. Always so nice to have freezer meals so that I don't have to think about what's for supper while I'm sitting here thinking about what's for breakfast next week. This will be so nice for a nice family brunch. I'm gonna do half a dozen eggs and whisk that together with our heavy cream, sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, salt. That's it in this thing. We're gonna whisk that together, which needs a whisk. And while we do that, I'm gonna tell you about the restaurant that we went to. So, two things that were funny about it. Just to recap, my husband had booked us at a restaurant that had a tasting menu that was entirely foraged ingredients. And I wasn't sure how this would go, but I love trying new things. And of course, my brain is always like, how can I figure this into a freezer meal, right? Well, none of these things will be making their way into the club, I can tell you that. Spoiler alert. Because, yeah, no, it's a big no. Now, I have to give it to this chef for the innovation. The plating, as you'll see, was absolutely beautiful, very innovative, very creative. I totally see the vision, and I have a lot of respect for that. So I'm definitely not making fun of what she's doing. I'm super impressed with everything she's doing. I'm just making fun of our perception of how it all happened for us, because we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. So we went and we sat down. It's this really cool, used to be a house restaurant. And so we sat up in kind of the attic area, and we're very, very close to two other tables. So they're like less space between the counter and I than what was between us and the next table. And so you can hear everything from the other tables, right? What we didn't realize is that my husband ordered us the menu called Très Bien, which is kind of a play on the French Très Bien. And that, very good. But it was because it's tree. So everything in the menu kind of came from, well, almost everything. I can think of one or two things that didn't come from trees. Everything else came from trees. So hold on one second, de-egg the hands. What we didn't realize, or what he didn't realize when he booked it, is that there's 2 other menus you can get as well. So we're sitting there with our menu where every course that comes out, it's like, I'm not exaggerating this. This is true story. We had one course where there's these things, they look like breakfast sausages. They look like they're like fried breakfast sausages. You think that's what they're gonna taste like. They're made of pine cones, taste like air. So, you're not quite getting all the flavors that maybe you should be or could be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works. I've never cooked with pine cone before. But in this course, we had these pine coney things. I can't remember what else, but I do remember very distinctly that the broth was a fallen leaf broth. So when you're a kid and you make stone soup, you like put water and you put some rocks in there and maybe some leaves and you stir it around with a big stick. Well, this is kind of what this reminded me of. And I can tell you that fallen leaf broth, not much flavor there. So here we are, we're eating our thing. Oh, and there was lichen, the stuff that kind of hangs on the bark or on the tree leaves. Yeah, there's lichen and there's fallen tree broth and these pine cone things. And so we're eating this and not getting much taste and not feeling full at all. And the table next to us, who was on one of the other menus that we hadn't chosen because we didn't know it was an option, they were having like the 7-course menu that involves more than just tree things. And so we're hearing their waitress bring them out these courses, and it's like, this is your lobster-filled ravioli and sturgeon, and this is like blah, blah. And we're like practically drooling because we're so hungry because fallen tree broth does not fill you up. So anyway, that part was really funny. One part that was really nice is that one of my daughters is taking culinary arts in high school, and she loves, food and plating and creativity and all of that. She's also our biggest like running barefoot in the forest kind of kid, wildflowers, all of that. And so every course I took photos. I missed one course, so you'll see photos of everything except the one course. But she was like, I was sending her the photo and then I was explaining to her what it was, and she was so involved and she was so excited and she just loved it. And so that part was actually really, really fun. It was funny being my husband and I eating these things that were quite air-like and listening to the 2 tables next to us be served things that sounded like real food. Now, another thing that I found kind of interesting is that anything that we had that was made with flour, so we actually ordered an extra course, which was like a brioche bun thing, was actually made with pine flour, as in flour made from a pine tree. So my husband Googled it, and apparently pine flour is a famine flour. So we paid a lot of money because it was a tasting menu at this really cool, innovative place, right? So we paid a lot of money to eat famine flour, which we thought was hilarious. Just grabbing a bit of sugar. So that was funny. And then the dessert was the best part, actually, I have to say. It did have a little sprig of something that was made with the pine flour, but it was a panna cotta made with the sap of a spruce tree, and it also had a candied spruce tip on it. So you literally ate a spruce tree, like that. You put it in your mouth and chewed a spruce tree. And you know what spruce tree smells like? That's what it tastes like. So it wasn't bad, but like I wouldn't say that I'm gonna start making that on the regular, but nor would I even know how to go about it. But the panna cotta was actually really good. And if no one had told me that it was made with spruce sap and other things that came from trees, I would have had no idea. So, you know, I wouldn't say it was like a negative experience by any stretch. It was just quite funny. And then when we got back after this, like, I cannot stress enough that we did not pay famine pine flour prices for this meal. We got back to the bed and breakfast that we were staying at for the weekend, and there was a giant spruce tree outside and pine cones that had fallen on the ground. And I looked at my husband and I was like, oh, we could have just eaten here. So anyway, that's my story of my foraged food eating experience. We ate fiddleheads, we ate leaves, we ate, the lichen was quite an experience. The type of leaves that it was, we were actually able to find out in the wild. So now we know. So we were also joking about the fact that, you know, if there was a zombie apocalypse or something like that, then we live in the country. We have a lot of pine trees, and I think we have spruce trees as well. We have a lot of trees. And so we could probably survive a little bit better having gone to this dinner, although I don't really know what's what, so I'd be a little bit afraid. But I could maybe figure out how to make pine flour since we have a lot of those trees. And yeah. Okay, I'm doing a little bit of salt. I put in some vanilla, and then we're gonna pour this over the bread. Now this is kind of like dessert, but it is not spruce tip or spruce whatever panna cotta. So not quite as fancy, but I dare say it'll be just as tasty. I'm just gonna kind of press it around a little bit just because, like I said, there is, look, I've got bread cubes stuck in my whisk. I can have a little concert. Okay. I've already established that it doesn't take much to amuse me. Okay. Oh, I have another one stuck. Maybe I should be pressing this down with a spoon, not my whisk. Oh my word. I have to push it through. Come on, little guy. There we go. Okay, I'm not gonna risk doing that again. We're now gonna just dump the frozen berries on top. Now, a while back, we had done that breakfast video where we made smoothie bags, and for that, I had bought some frozen berries from Costco. I do find not everything is less expensive at Costco, but definitely the frozen fruit, at least at my local Costco, is so much less than anywhere else. The other thing that I find is much less is cauliflower rice. There's actually quite a number of things, but I find with Costco you really kind of have to know what you're doing and have to be able to price compare, because otherwise you can, get stuck with a giant quantity of something and realize later that you actually didn't pay any less than you would have paid somewhere else, and sometimes you in fact paid more. So you do have to be careful, but the things that are a deal are a really good deal, including these frozen berries. So I'm gonna get those on there. This is such a pretty one too, sort of evenly dispersed. We're gonna cover it with 2 layers of foil. Now, if I was doing this okay, I just have to wash this for a second. If I was doing this in a foil tray and I was keeping it in the freezer for months, I would probably do 1 layer of plastic wrap and then a layer of foil with a note on the foil to remind me to take off the plastic wrap. But since I know that I'm using this in the next couple of weeks, potentially the next week, I'm just gonna go ahead and put some foil on here and get it into the freezer, and then we'll have another breakfast meal done. Now we've got our label that tells us exactly how long to cook this for. So we're gonna stick that on there. Then I don't have to access the recipe and it's just a lot easier for me. We'll get this in the freezer. All right, we are gonna make some zucchini loaves. These are always so nice to have, for me especially, because I love them, and if I slice them before I freeze them, then I can take out one slice at a time. Now, when I had zucchini in my garden, I grated some and measured them into 1 cup and 2 cup packages. And so this is my shredded zucchini that we're using today. And the other nice thing about this, and the reason that I'm doubling this, is just to get rid of the last of my zucchini from last year, because pretty soon I'm gonna start to grow zucchini again. And you know, there's only so long you wanna have zucchini in your freezer, but as you can see, this is still beautiful. It smells great, it looks great, there's no freezer burn at all. And this is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a year later, it's probably been like 9 months because this was after the harvest, but still. All right, so we're gonna mix our wet ingredients together and the sugar. So our zucchini, sugar, some vegetable oil, some lemon juice. Let me see how much. Oh, just a little bit. The lemon juice just gives it a little bit more zip. It brightens it up a bit. I know with baking you're supposed to measure more so than with cooking, but you know, it's lemon juice. Like, probably I can't mess that part up. We'll see, but I think it should be okay. And then 2 eggs, because we're doubling it. This is a recipe I have been making forever and ever, and my kids love it. Even my kids that won't eat vegetables will eat this. And then I know, hey, I just got a zucchini in them, so, or a part of one anyway. I should have been doing math on how many eggs we've used in this video, because there have been a lot. And actually, I just learned about a new recipe using eggs from my niece, and it's kind of like egg bites like we just made, except that it's with quinoa. And they sound really interesting. And so she's gonna give me the recipe this week. So the next time we do a breakfast video, we're gonna do the quinoa egg bites. And the next time we do a breakfast video, we're also going to do, now this is kind of sad, but I was gonna do lemon bliss balls in this video, and we didn't. The reason is because when I renovated my kitchen, I lost most of my blender. Now, having part of a blender is not very helpful, let me tell you. So I'm missing the most important parts of the blender. Therefore, we can't make the lemon bliss balls. Now, it calls for a food processor, but it said, you know, if you don't have one, which I don't, you could get away with a blender. So I was like, oh, no problem, I just need to find the blender. Well, yeah, still can't find the rest of the blender. So we are stuck not being able to make our lemon bliss balls today. So you already have something to look forward to for the next breakfast video, because we're gonna do quinoa egg bites and lemon bliss balls. That's pretty exciting. 2 new recipes in one video is pretty awesome too. Okay, now we're doing how much flour? 3 cups of flour. So we're gonna mix the dry ingredients together in a different bowl. So I'm gonna grab this one here. So we mixed together the dry ingredients, which was like flour and baking soda, baking powder, nutmeg, cinnamon. Now I did add more nutmeg and cinnamon than what are called for, because I always do. And what else was in there? That's absolutely it. That's everything. And now we are mixing our dry ingredients into our wet ingredients. I realized that I took out a giant bowl. Like, this bowl would have been sufficient to mix both, but somehow, again, spatially, I'm not that great. And so somehow I thought we needed like this giant bowl. Anyway, I guess it's better that it's too big than too small, but here we are. Now you want to mix just until combined. The recipe for this is going to be in the description below, so you don't need to jot down exact measurements as I go. We're going to spray our loaf pans and then get those in the oven. I only have one of the stoneware loaf pans, so I always feel badly because when these come out, I pretty much always double the recipe. And when they come out, one of them is like way fluffier and more beautiful than the other. And then I feel badly for the one that was in the glass pan, but you know, what can you do? Get these in the oven. Once those are done, we're gonna wait for them to cool and then slice them and get them into freezer bags. Of course, getting out the air and sealing it. That way, I can take out one at a time, or if we're having like company over for tea or something, I can take out 4 slices or 6 or like exactly as many as I need. As long as I get the air out of the bag or as much of it as I can every time, these will stay good for a long time in the freezer. And then I just made those zucchini from last year stretch even further. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's kind of been this whirlwind of 2 days, but we got a lot done and packed into my freezer. It's been fun, and it's been way more fun having you here with me. So thanks again, and happy cooking.